Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Biohack-it. And today I'm very excited about my guest, and I'll tell you why. Not only is she a woman who's revolutionizing how we're treating our health, but she's making it accessible and she's bringing in real conversation into healthcare. Berzin, the CEO and founder of Parsley Health. Thank you for coming out this morning. I know you're so busy and coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
I want to know what inspired you to start Parsley Health, because there's really nothing like it on the market. There's nothing like Parsley Health that exists.
You know, when I was in my medical training, all I saw was people living with chronic disease that could be reversed or even resolved. And it was so clear to me that the way that we were eating and moving and living was causing our autoimmune, our GI, our depression, our heart health, our weight gain, our hormone imbalances, even our infertility.
Right.
And no one was doing anything about it. And it seems so clear to me that if we could treat the root cause, we could reverse the tsunami of chronic disease that we're all living with. But as I was in medical training at Columbia and Mount Sinai, these amazing institutions, what I saw was a disease care system, not a healthcare system. And I set about saying, how do we change that? How do we use root cause medicine? Some people call it functional medicine, to help people get healthier. And that's what I want to devote my career to.
What I love about Parsley Health and what you're doing is you're bringing functional medicine in an affordable way to the masses. Because to most people who are like, oh, you're doing functional medicine, it's so unobtainable. Yeah. Can we talk about how you came up with the concept, to the pricing, how you guys are training up people, how you're reaching more people?
Well, that was my mission really with Parsley specifically, which was to bring functional medicine to everyone who needs it. Everyone deserves a functional medicine doctor. But I was fortunate enough to train with some of the top functional medicine doctors in our space, names we all know, and they were amazing, and I learned so much from them. And I saw that there was these tiny private practices that were thousands of dollars just to walk in the door, that there wasn't a lot of standardization or data. There wasn't bringing it to people through telemedicine, and it really wasn't built for reaching a lot of people. And what I set out to do was say, okay, let's hire board certified doctors. Let's build a training program for them in functional medicine so we can really standardize the way we're delivering this care. And let's start tracking health outcomes through data and really making sure all of our protocols are evidence-based so that we can build something that can reach like everyone. And now we're here, now 15 million people. We haven't even announced, but we have a new health plan in California that's going live for us in a couple weeks. And United Healthcare California, I'll just say it.
That is huge.
Which is millions more people.
Huge.
And we now have about 15 million people who can access Parsley through insurance so far in New York and California, but we're working on more states. And even outside of insurance, what I set about to do was a pricing model that would make this care affordable and far more accessible than what was on the market. And we've done that, which is really cool.
I just want to stop and celebrate that for a second. To be a woman building this out in health and wellness and doing this for the masses is so brilliant. You should really pat yourself on the back.
Thank you.
This is not a small feat to accomplish and achieve. So, and you've really led the charge in this space.
Well, sometimes I feel like, I'm trying to think of the, David and Goliath, but the female. I'm like, what's the female version of David? But I'm like Daria versus Goliath. Because the U.S. healthcare system is so enormous and so difficult to change. And as I've embarked on this journey, building a healthcare company is hard. Building something where doctors and nurses and health coaches are working across the country online in a supported environment to deliver this care at the highest standards, which I'm proud to say we do, to get outcomes data and have data scientists working on showing that we're helping reduce people's need for chronic prescription drugs by 30% in a year. We're helping people get off of drugs. We're helping people not need to see specialists anymore. We've proven all of that with independently validated data. And we're helping people get better. 85% of our members improve or resolve their symptoms in year one, which is extraordinary.
Which is insane, yeah.
But to do all that, it's taken venture capital, which prior to Parsley, I had no experience raising money. And it takes working with our healthcare system, which is not friendly or historically hasn't been friendly to this idea of treating the root cause. What I will say is in the past 2 years, and I actually credit people like you who have really helped this movement get out there and some of the other leaders in the space. In the past 2 years, when I go talk to the big health insurance companies in the world and in the United States, and when I talk to big employers who Parsley also serves large employers, and 5 years ago, I would be like, so we do functional medicine. It's all about treating the root cause. And I'd have to like explain what on earth that is. And I'd get a lot of looks like, huh? And now I get more like, oh, you don't need to explain it to me. I know. And we're really excited about it. The other day, the heads of benefits and health for a huge software company, like a company that's not a healthcare company, but is looking for better services for its employees, this huge company, they both said, yes, functional medicine is the future. We're so glad you're here. And I like couldn't believe my ears that these are not the people who've been like leading the charge in what felt like a niche world for so long. These are just regular folks who are now saying, we don't want to be on pills for the rest of our lives. We want to be healthy. We want to get well. And we want to bring functional medicine to our employees at this ginormous software company, which is extraordinary to me.
That is so exciting to hear because we spend more than any other country on healthcare, but yet we're the most chronically sick country in the world. So what Parsley Health is doing is, in an affordable way, helping people get better and really heal their bodies with root cause, which is what we should have been doing the whole time. But most doctors are not incentivized to do it because they have to get a patient in, patient out, give them a prescription. That's how they make their money and you're out the door. So to change that model and bring in these incredible board certified MDs, you're impacting so many people, and it's generational work. You know what I mean? Like you and I speak about that sometimes on Instagram. It's not about this generation alone. It's about the next one and the next one and the next one, and going into healing what's really causing them to be sick.
Exactly.
Nutrition, lifestyle, supplementation, demineralization, and understanding what's wrong with your unique biology, because it's not one size fits all.
And we have the power to get healthy and stay healthy. And that's really what Parsley is here to do, right? A lot of our healthcare system is about managing disease. At Parsley, through our methodology, we're here to help you get healthy and stay healthy. And that could mean someone comes to us just with, her periods are off and she's worried she's not going to be able to get pregnant and she doesn't understand why. We'll do the right testing. We'll dig under the hood, find out that actually she's got a blood sugar imbalance, which is causing her irregular periods, which we could totally correct through reducing the sugar in the diet, doing a little bit of weight-bearing exercise. Maybe we prescribe a little progesterone in the right part of the cycle. Her periods are back. I see these patients over and over again. One of my patients was told by her OB/GYN that she would never get pregnant without IVF. And we helped her get her cycle back, and she's had 3 kids without any intervention. So it could be something like that, where I see a lot of people, especially women, almost like gaslight themselves, like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. I'm just sort of living with this. I'm going to sort of go on and on. But my message for everyone is, if those things are happening in your body, listen to it. Right. There's a reason. And that reason is oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes something we can address with functional medicine and get you right back on track and get you to your goals. Also, we have patients who are really sick. I have a patient, I've had her for 5 years. I saw her yesterday. This is like, we really don't see international patients, but this person has flown to see me every year from Uruguay.
That's amazing.
And I saw her in person yesterday. She's in her mid-30s. I've been with her through 2 pregnancies. And when I met her, she has Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disease of the GI tract. When I met her, she'd already had 1 surgery and had part of her GI tract taken out. And our goal with her was to avoid another surgery, because if she has another surgery, she's going to end up with a bag on the outside of her body, and like just quality of life is going to be really reduced. And it was so cute. She and her husband came from Uruguay and they sat with me. I saw both of them yesterday. Yeah. He's now my patient too. And with her, we've just been working so diligently for 5 years to keep her out of the hospital, to keep the medicines that she's on working, and to keep her from having another surgery. And it's worked. And we've been intervening around an anti-inflammatory diet, so getting gluten and other allergens out of her diet. We've done food allergy testing to direct us. We have her on a whole bunch of gut healing supplements, meditation practices to keep her stress down. Actually, stress is the number 1 reason people with autoimmune disease end up with a flare that puts them in the hospital. So Stress is real, people. It's not just something that, is in our heads. It lives in our bodies too. And with this patient, it's just been so gratifying. She was high-risk pregnancy twice. And I've been supporting her through telehealth through this entire journey. And my goal is for her, she's only 35 years old. Like, she's got decades and decades to live with this disease. And I wish I'd met her before she had her original surgery, but now we're here. And there's so many people out there who are living with chronic disease. They're walking and talking, they're living their lives, they're young, and they don't have anyone giving them that guidance that can help them keep that disease in check and sometimes even put it into remission.
That's such a beautiful success story. And you must be so, like, things that warm your heart, Yeah. You're like, I've worked with this woman on her journey. She finally understands her diagnosis. She feels like there's a solution. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, which people also, by the way, I know so many people get diagnosed and they get like a deer in headlights. They're like, now what do I do? Like, what's next? So I think, one, this idea of functional medicine breaks it down for you in a way that you're able to maintain the information, have a path forward, and she probably feels so relieved to have you in her corner.
And she has a guide. So when there is a flare or she's anemic and she needs to make decisions, I'm her partner in that. Alongside, she has a gastroenterologist, of course, and she's on some pretty serious medications, of course. And some of our patients were able to get off of biologic medications, which are the class of medications that a lot of people with autoimmune disease end up. For those listening who aren't familiar with autoimmune, it's when your immune system actually attacks your bodies, and it can attack your GI, it can attack your skin in psoriasis, it can attack your brain in multiple sclerosis, it can attack your thyroid, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. 80% of autoimmune is in women for reasons that are poorly understood. And this disease is rapidly on the rise because of the way that we've introduced pesticides into our environment, the way we've destroyed our microbiome, which actually plays a big role in keeping our immune system kind of in check, the way that we live in some ways in too clean of a society for some of us, and then we're not exposed to germs that help teach our immune systems. There's all these factors and the foods that we're eating. And so when you take all of that, you have autoimmune disease massively on the rise, heavily impacting women, but men as well. And people like my patient who don't know that autoimmune is highly responsive to diet and highly responsive to supplements and stress management. We actually have a partnership with CVS around autoimmune patients specifically, and the need is so great, but it's under-recognized. And so for my patient, like many of my patients, I have a lot of autoimmune patients, and at Parsley we have thousands of autoimmune patients. Her feeling like she has other tools in her toolkit, other than just saying, what's the next drug I'm going to take to manage her disease, is just as you said, it's so empowering.
Because they feel like they have control in their life back, right? Because when you're just popping pills and you just look to yourself and say, well, I just have to live with this, there's nothing I can do about it, disempowers you.
Yes.
And what I love about functional medicine is, and the work that you do, is you're empowering people to take their health back into their own hands. And the right food, the right exercise, the right stress management makes you feel like, hey, I can rewrite my chapter a little bit over here. Yes. And that is what helps you heal, and that sends a message to your body that we are going to do this together. I wanted to ask you, how many cases do you see that come to, Parsley and, with all your doctors? Sometimes people that are misdiagnosed with things, and you look at it from a functional perspective and you're like, wait, that's not what it is.
All the time. So we see over and over again, for example, somebody has depression and they're on an antidepressant medication and it's not really working. Those drugs can be really powerful tools, but for some people, those drugs aren't treating the root cause. I actually wrote a book about this. So State Change is the book that I wrote about the physical reasons we have mental health conditions that often get missed. I actually have a course on this out right now for the platform One Commune. If you're listening, my course Mentally Well is out right now. It's an online 10-day video course. It's super easy, and it's all based on the work in my book. And over again, I see a woman who's on, an SSRI or antidepressant. It's not really doing it, right? She's in therapy. She's on the medications. She's switching medications. No one properly tested her thyroid function. Meanwhile, she's got hypothyroidism. One of the classic symptoms of that is depression. And simply by treating her thyroid, her depression alleviates. She gets off of all of her other medications. And we help about 25% of our patients at Parsley get off of those psychiatric medications. Not because those meds are necessarily bad, but if they're not working for you, let's find the root cause. And there are so many root cause drivers of our anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, insomnia, from eating too much sugar and having inflammation in the brain, which causes anxiety. Underlying diseases, autoimmune and inflammatory diseases cause inflammation, lead to anxiety and depression, or people are much more prone to anxiety and depression. Nutrient deficiencies like iron and B vitamins, all the time we see that people don't realize they have. And some of these things are just so fixable. Right. And so people are like blown away. You know, we live a highly sedentary lifestyle. The average American is sitting 10 hours a day. If you're sitting 10 hours a day, you are highly likely to be anxious and depressed because the body processes emotion through movement. And if we don't move, we don't process our emotions. And so they get stuck in our heads, right? And so not all anxiety and depression can be treated in this way, right? But even for those folks who have, you know, inherited their mental health disorders, or they've experienced incredible trauma and their mental health conditions come from that, those folks can still be helped by this functional approach. Because when you get your body on board for having a healthy mind, it's like if you're facing serious anxiety and depression, it like gets you to base camp for then having to climb Everest, which is the journey, that mental health journey for so many. So it can be complementary, or it can be complete resolution.
Do you, when you're treating people like this, like patients who are on SSRIs, and do you also look at things like root cause when it comes to trauma and maybe childhood experiences that have offset something in their body?
Yes, absolutely. And that goes the other way. I love that you said that.
You know me, I'm always on the hunt for ways to level up my health game. And let me tell you, I've learned that when it comes to overall wellness, all roads lead to the gut. 70% of the human immune system resides in the gut, making it a crucial factor in overall health. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce to you our newest partner, Jonah, the most advanced microbiome company on the market. If you're like me, always looking at ways to optimize your health and well-being, you're going to love this product. Jonah isn't just another health app. It's a cutting-edge AI platform that analyzes your microbiome to unlock your body's full potential. Imagine having a personal health detective that dives deep into your gut to uncover the root cause of your symptoms. That's Jonah for you. They use state-of-the-art technology to get a comprehensive picture of your gut health. This isn't science fiction. It's a personalized model of your biology that helps predict how different factors affect your health. Personalized nutrition recommendations. Based on your unique microbiome profile, Jonah provides tailored dietary advice to optimize your health and enhance longevity. Whether you're aiming to boost your energy, improve your digestion, or simply feel your absolute best, Jonah is your new secret weapon. It's like having a team of microbiome scientists in your pocket working 24/7 to help you achieve your health goals. Ready to experience the precision of wellness? Visit Jonah, Jona.health today and start your journey towards optimal health.
What's happening in the body is affecting the brain, which is what I was just talking about, and affecting our emotional balance. What's happening in the mind is also deeply affecting what's happening in the body. Irritable bowel syndrome, which affects like 40 million Americans, have GI issues, is a highway between your brain and your body. And if you've experienced trauma and you're living in a state of fight or flight, that running from a lion feeling that a lot of us are living in all the time, that fight or flight through the vagus nerve in the brain is actually shutting down your GI. And so you get a lot of irregularity, gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. When you get that over time, that can lead to acid reflux. It can lead even to something called leaky gut, which then disrupts our immune systems. And so I always remind people the body is an ecosystem. What's happening in functional medicine, we look at that ecosystem. We look at your environment around you and the foods that you're eating and what you're exposed to. We look at your mind, mental health, but we also look at your body, and then we look at spirit and emotion, right? Because those matter too. And sometimes, you know, I've been in visits with patients, both online and in person, where, you know, sometimes the elephant in the room, so to speak, is the trauma that they're going through or have experienced. And it's a thing that's blocking them from healing. And in a regular medical setting, that doesn't even get acknowledged. And in our setting, we have to sit with that and sometimes help people find the right resources to move through that so that their body can get out of fight or flight and begin to heal.
We've been talking a lot about like the word functional medicine. Obviously, people listening to Biohack-it should know that. But in your definition, I just want to explain to people, Robin, when you explain functional medicine, for somebody listening, they're like, what's the difference between traditional medicine and functional medicine? What is your definition?
Functional medicine really just means we're treating the root cause instead of band-aiding or managing the symptom. So if you're exhausted and depressed and gaining weight and tired and have skin issues, we're kind of like the investigative journalists of medicine. We're going to do the right tests. We're going to look at what you're eating, how you're moving, how you manage stress. We'll diagnose you, certainly. Maybe that's a thyroid condition. Maybe it's depression. Maybe it's an imbalance in the gut bacteria. There's all sorts of things that could be. But instead of giving you just medications for your symptoms, here's something for more energy, here's a pill to help you sleep, here's something to get your bowels moving, right? Those are all symptomatic treatments. And we're going to treat the root cause so that you can actually get better and stay better. And at Parsley, what we have is our own proprietary methodology where we start off right at the beginning. So when you get started at Parsley, it's a root cause medicine assessment. We do an online intake. We do an hour-long visit with one of our doctors or clinicians, and then we do testing. And those 3 parts equal our root cause medicine assessment. That's like the deep dive when you begin with us. And then at visit 2 with our clinicians, we're working with you and saying, okay, we've put all of this data together. Here's where we think the root cause lies. Maybe we figured it out right away. Maybe we need further testing. And we're going to start treating the root cause across nutrition and food, sleep, fitness, supplements, lifestyle, and of course we prescribe drugs and refer to specialists. And I think that last part is really, for Parsley, it was really important to me that, we're not natural or the highway here, right? Like don't Reiki your UTI away, people. Yeah. Just take an antibiotic, okay? We are going to bring together the best of evidence-based conventional medicine with the functional medicine approach in a methodology that we then train all of our providers in.
Right.
And so for people who are thinking about this, like, do you know why you have your symptoms? Do you know why you have your disease? And if you don't know why, or you're not sure why, or you're not sure if the meds you're on or the treatment you're on is treating the root cause, seeing a functional medicine doctor can really put you on that path to understanding your body.
One of the things that when you're talking, and I love the way you describe, functional medicine and everything you guys do at Parsley Health, different for me when I'm hearing this to conventional medicine is you also approach the emotional body and the spiritual body. Because I think traditional medicine has kind of lost that aspect of like your emotions don't matter, spirituality does not matter. And spirituality can mean different things to different people completely. But it's integrating those parts of somebody that are also so important that make us who we are, and you're treating them from that whole perspective as a human.
Absolutely. Mind, body, and spirit are one in the functional medicine model, and we cannot put our emotions off to the side when we treat the body. It doesn't work. And when you speak about spirituality, I think it's really important because every single one of us humans is a spiritual person, whether that's a connection to a particular organized religion or whether that's just your own connection to the universe. A lot of people have lost that connection. Yeah. And a lot of people feel really disconnected. And that spiritual disconnection is then driving the behaviors that are making them sick, the emotional imbalances. And so recognizing that in a medical setting can be deeply powerful.
I think it's crazy that we live in a day and time that sometimes we have to think twice when we're talking about spirituality online because we're worried about like, well, how will it come across? We think twice about using the word God and higher source because sometimes we're like, wait, are people going to read my content and think I'm kind of like woo-woo? But at the end of the day, a lot of us identify with that, right? Like you said, whether it's through organized relation or just a feeling of where we belong or communities we belong to, yes. Right? We're always looking to be part of something, to be included in community because that's how we thrive. Right. We don't exist by ourselves. And I feel that this way of approaching mind, body, soul, treating patients allows them to step back into themselves and reintegrate with themselves.
Yes, absolutely. And loneliness has been shown to be one of our top drivers of mortality. Right? And this has been heavily researched and shown clearly in the data, right? So, and I think we do have a lot of loneliness and disconnection in today's world. We're disconnected to family. We're spending so much time online that we're not investing in our real world communities. And humans weren't built to live like that. And so from our perspective at Parsley and my perspective, health is so much more than just your blood tests. The blood tests are a great start because it makes some things that can feel very like esoteric and intangible. It makes them real, right? Everyone likes to see their data. It's like we all like to see a grade, right? It's like, oh, wow, I've got a C- in my cholesterol. Like,
it's going to move up.
Yeah, let's track that, right? And that impulse, I think, is awesome because it can get people kind of excited about sort of digging into their health more when what's going on inside our bodies for a lot of people is sort of a mystery, right? So we can do that with a diagnostic test and really put it on paper or, electronic paper today. Yeah. But we also have to recognize that, yes, if we are not here and present and integrated as a mind, body, and spirit, it's going to be really hard for us to take action on some of these numbers. And so recognizing that in a medical context, I think, is critical. It's like, what is health, right? If you're completely mentally imbalanced or you're totally disconnected,
correct,
then I wouldn't call that healthy just because you're physically healthy.
Right. Because people look at their numbers and they're like, well, I have, X% body fat, I'm sleeping super well, but their mind is not at peace. Yeah. And if you're not at peace with yourself, are you really healthy? Yeah. Where are you living, And that's why I think a lot of especially when you live in busy cities like New York that we're in right now, every time I come to New York, I feel like I'm overstimulated, like everything's coming at me, the sound, the lights, and that monkey mind goes into play. And then you're running around like a hamster in a wheel. And I think finding the quiet in our lives is also important.
One of my patients, I'm just thinking right now, she's a young woman in her 30s, also with severe autoimmune disease that she had failed every drug they had put her on. And when she came to Parsley, she had ulcers in her mouth all the way down her esophagus. And, her mom was just with her in tears because of this situation. She'd basically been fired by the top autoimmune doctors at one of the big hospitals in New York. And ultimately, through a functional medicine approach, through healing her gut, through getting her off of inflammatory foods, we were able to put her disease into remission, which was amazing. And with some flares along the way, keep her there. Now she's been able to get through 2 high-risk pregnancies. Along the way, she also had severe anxiety. I mean, this is someone who's in trauma because of their experience with the medical system, right? And their experience with their health. They're living in trauma all the time. And they're living with chronic inflammation, right? No amount of what we do or the meds she's on will ever totally get rid of that inflammatory process for her. So it's something she's going to have to live with forever.
Right.
And she was having pretty severe anxiety. And she's also interesting. She had been seeing psychiatry. She hadn't responded to any of the anti-anxiety or antidepressant medications. One of them made her gums bleed. I mean, literally, her body just rejected all of those meds. They can work for some people, weren't working for her. Mm-hmm. And we ultimately kind of worked down that she was obsessively scrolling social media and news feeds. And this is during the pandemic. And we were able to literally go on a media break for a month. And her panic attacks stopped and she was able to get off of Xanax, which was starting to become, because Xanax and those drugs can become really addictive. And so it was just this amazing recognition, I think, to your point, that we all, I think our cups are overflowing in what we've taken on in life, right? Everyone feels busy. Everyone feels overwhelmed. It's a lot. I always joke that my memoir is going to be like, It's a Lot by Robin Berzin. But
it's true.
But it's true. We all feel that way. And so if you are living with any sort of chronic illness and you're also living in the it's a lot state, and then you add the crazy stimulation or the stress of social media to that, people are like, oh, I can handle it. I can handle scrolling the gram at night for 30 minutes or TikTok or whatever, pick your poison. But that might be the thing that is just pushing you over.
That too far out.
It's the too far. It's the straw that broke the camel's back that's leading to anxiety and panic attacks and poor sleep and indigestion and staying in their fight or flight mode.
Right.
And I think reconnecting to our body as like an organism, this is the only vehicle you have for life, people. But people take a lot better care of their cars sometimes than their bodies.
Their bodies.
I think that can be a huge unlock.
I'm so glad you brought this point up. So for people who follow me on social media, I'm a very big believer in plant medicine, and I've been doing it for a long time and stuff. You will not believe one of the downloads that I got this time in Ecuador. You spend too much time on social media. You need to spend less time on social media and start reading again. Because I used to read so much and take in so much data, and I stopped because I'm spending so much time just going through my social media, and it's become addictive. And I got this clear download. You need to put that down. Mm-hmm. You need to start reading again, because our brains are not firing all the muscles anymore, because we're not reading words. We're not expanding our vocabulary. We're not learning new things, and we're getting our sound bites from social media and our news from social media, right?
We're being told what to think instead of exploring in some ways for ourselves what we want to think. And that is a loss of agency in a big way.
Absolutely. And you see it more with the younger generation, where we still like have that, we'll take our news properly and kind of intake it and read and stuff. But the younger generation's completely stopped doing that. And they're spending all their time on Instagram and TikTok. So they're obsessed with this. It's not only like the blue light you're getting from it, but your brain stops firing.
Yes. The recent research actually shows that it's really that stimulation that is of the content that you're taking in that is the sleep disruptor, more than the light. I know blue light got like a big wave for a while, and everyone was wearing the weird red glasses and it's cool, everyone. If you were there, it's cool. It's cool. Don't feel bad. It was me too. But that is true, right? The lights from our screens is stimulating, but it's the content of the information we're taking in that's hyperstimulating.
And I think if you have a dopamine or serotonin dysregulation, that just feeds right into that. And these quick dopamine hits that you're getting, that when you put it down, you're like, wait, what am I supposed to do now?
Well, I think we all have that dysregulation. I don't even think that it's like you have to have an underlying dysregulation. I think that these platforms are designed to create dysregulation, to create emotional dysregulation, to in some ways create physical dysregulation, because we're like anchored to our chairs with our neck bent over looking down.
Correct.
My husband always says that like in 20 years, we're all going to look back at all of us like walking through the streets holding these little like pieces of metal with our heads hunched over and just be like,
because our heads are being affected. Our necks.
People get chronic headaches. But, we're all going to look back and laugh because the technology is going to radically change. So I'll believe it when I see it. We'll see.
And, I think one of the things you said earlier when we started chatting is because we're spending so much time online, we don't connect with real community anymore. And the real connection happens in person. And the real connection happens through making real relationships without our screens. How are you? How's your family? How have you been doing? How are you feeling in life? Like those little questions to really get to know somebody is so much more important than a picture on their carousel grid that's a snapshot of their life.
It's also, the human body has a biomagnetic field around us, right? There's actually an energy field around our bodies, and that when our fields come into contact with other people, there's an energy exchange that does not happen online. And we were developed as creatures to have those interactions and to have that positively influence our bodies just by being around others. So I do think it's really important. And I think what you're saying about community is so important. And before we started recording, I think we were talking about sort of women and biohacking and longevity and health span. And we were talking about how biohacking and longevity is a bit of a male-dominated space. And that the work that's happening in the male-led parts of it is awesome. But I think for women, health span and longevity, when I talk to women, when I talk to my patients.
This episode is brought to you by Biooptimizers. Are you tired of tossing and turning at night, unable to quiet your racing mind? 4 out of 5 Americans aren't getting enough magnesium, and it's affecting their sleep and overall well-being. I used to lie awake for hours worrying about my to-do list for the next day. It was a vicious cycle that left me exhausted and unproductive. That all changed when I discovered Magnesium Breakthrough. Since adding it to my nightly routine, I've been falling asleep much faster, staying asleep much longer, and waking up refreshed. It's been a game changer for my sleep quality and energy levels. What sets Magnesium Breakthrough apart is its unique blend of all 7 forms of magnesium. Unlike other supplements that offer just 1 or 2 types, this comprehensive formula supports everything from stress management to muscle recovery. Experience the power of optimal magnesium levels for yourself. Go to biooptimizers.com/biohack-it and use promo code Biohack-it to save 10% on your first order. Subscribe for even bigger discounts and free gifts, ensuring your monthly supply is always guaranteed. Don't let sleepless nights hold you back. Try Magnesium Breakthrough today.
It's so much less about, I'm going to live to 100. Well, I'm going to live to 120. And it's so much more about, I want to feel good right now. And I think for women who are by nature, feel connected to community and invest in community and are the community builders historically, that sense of community is a really important part of health span. And that means that like getting out, getting off your phone is a really big piece of that feeling of mind, body, spirit health, I think, for women when we talk about women and longevity.
I think you touched upon something which is incredible. So yes, you always hear men saying, I want to live to X age. And I just, it's about anti-aging for them. For women, it's about really being able to also age with their children and see their grandchildren and just be healthy so they're not sick when those key moments in their life happen.
Yeah, it's about family, it's kids and grandkids, it's about career, and it's also about, I think, self.
Their self.
Right? Like, I think wherever you are in your family life, all of us know that we feel better and can interact with others better when we feel good in ourselves. Yeah. And so, yes, I want to live a long, healthy life. And I know that all the things that I'm helping my patients do, that I'm doing today to improve my health span, are working and will work for that. And I want us to all remember that it's not just about getting to 100 for the sake of it. It's about
quality of life
right now and in the next few years. And I think that's sort of missing a little bit from the longevity conversation. I have this protocol that if anyone's going to eudaimonia who hears this or is there, I'm giving a keynote called Brains, Bones, and Booty. And it's my protocol for women who are, 35 and onward, who I think a lot of women are told sort of, well, you've had kids if you've had kids, or you haven't and you're done. Now you just wait for menopause.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
No one giving a blueprint for what women should be doing about their health and longevity right now, other than talking about hormone replacement therapy, HRT. And HRT is awesome and such an important part of it. And I'm going to talk about HRT in my Brains, Bones, Booty talk. And I think HRT is an extremely important component, but it's not enough. And so one of my patients, woman, 40 years old, she'd spent like years in a fertility journey, IVF, finally had her baby, now is on the other side of that. And so her entire like headspace when it came to her health was focused on just getting pregnant for so long, right? Really hard journey and just so much time, energy, money sunk into that. But happily, she has a beautiful baby boy. Okay. And she said to me, I'm not sure what's wrong with me. I don't feel great. I'm done breastfeeding. Things feel kind of off, but like, I don't know. This person is a former athlete, like professional athlete. You'd see her walking down the street and you'd be like, wow, healthiest person alive just walked by. She doesn't feel good. But she doesn't have anything specific. She doesn't have a diagnosis. She's not sure. And she said to me, I guess I just wait for menopause. And it was like this lightning bolt went off in my head. Like, that's what women are told to do. They go through this radical life transformation and health transformation, which is having a child. And 86% of U.S. women will have a child by the end of her childbearing years. So it's most. Go through that and then told to wait for menopause, which is another radical health transformation.
It's a huge transformation.
With no guideline or plan for how to be healthy through these massive life transformations. And we help a lot of women get to that first transformation. We help a lot of women at Parsley get pregnant. Many had to help them without intervention in IVF. We also support a lot of IVF journeys at Parsley. But then on the other side, what do you do? And so for me, that's where Brains, Bones, and Booty was born in her story. So she sees me. She's 40 years old. We do testing. Turns out she's got food allergies. She's got early autoimmune thyroiditis, which she didn't know about. Luckily, we caught it early. Her hormones are starting to shift. She's not anywhere near really menopause yet. And by the way, she's not ready for hormones yet. She probably won't be ready for hormones for like 6, 7, maybe 8 years. But it's not wait till we're ready for hormones. It's we're testing our hormones or getting a baseline. And now is the time to invest in our bones, build bone, because when you go into menopause, you lose your estrogen and that's when your bones fall apart. But you've got to build bone first. And there's so many women who have early osteoporosis before they even get to menopause. So it's building bone. It's about brain health and building up cognitive function through the right nutrients, the right exercise, the right stimulation, because ultimately we want to have good cognitive function long term. And then when I say booty, it's really about metabolism. And this is our time to build lean muscle mass. As older we get, the harder it becomes. You can build lean muscle mass later in life. You can absolutely do it, but it becomes harder. And so we built a blueprint for her to make sure that she's in peak health when it comes to her brains, her bones, and her booty now, to test her hormones on an annual basis so we can be proactive about hormone replacement when it's time, and to get her inflammation from her autoimmune disease in check now so that it doesn't become a more serious disease down the road. And so she's like, I feel empowered. I know what's going on. And she now has a recipe to look and feel just as good as she has for the past 40 years, for the next 40 years.
It's amazing.
Which isn't like sit around, wait for menopause to hit, take some hormones, which is sort of the message that I think it's awesome we're talking about menopause a lot more right now. But we can't just sit around and wait for menopause and then take some hormones. Like that isn't going to do it, people. And that's what I want to share.
When you talk about building like bones and booty, what are some of the things that you're telling, putting in people's protocols? If people are listening, they're like, what do I do, Robin?
Yeah. Number one, get adequate protein in your diet. A lot of folks are talking about 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight, which, yes, if you really want to build muscle, significant muscle, you have to have that amount of protein every day. And it's hard. I have a great blog post on robinberzinmd.com, my site, about how to do that. Because for me, it's hard, right? I only eat certain kinds of animal protein, so I'm not eating everything. You got to be really diligent about it. I want to be clear to everyone, though. I think what's been lost in that protein conversation is that not everyone needs that much protein, and everyone's a little different. So you might be able to eat about, let's say, 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight, a little bit less than that. So 70% of that target, so 70 grams if you're 100 pounds, per every 100 pounds of body weight. And that amount for a lot of people is enough for them to start building muscle, right? So you have to see where your body responds. Now, you can't just eat protein all day and build muscle. You've got to weight train. And this is another huge message I have for women especially. So I think a lot of us, certainly in my generation, I'm in my early 40s, thought weight training bad, you're going to bulk up, right? Not what you're trying to do. I sort of got that message early on in my life that was wrong. You have to weight train beyond your own body weight. And if you do that and you get the protein in, you're doing two things. You're building muscle. And when you build muscle, that's higher resting metabolism so that you can have balanced blood sugar and avoid diabetes, and keep your weight in a healthy state. It's better body composition. More lean muscle means we keep our testosterone. And it helps build bones. That impact of weight training helps build your bones. So it's like a 3-for-1. Building up your testosterone, building up your metabolism, building up your bones, that combination of weight training and protein intake. And that is something that over and over and over again, we've seen tens of thousands of women at Parsley, also seen tens of thousands of men, by the way. We're not just for women. But that is like one vertical of the brains, bones, and booty protocol that is just like missing for most women. They're not doing it.
And when women, like men or women, we can say but we're talking about menopause. And when women come to you, do you match them to an MD based on their signs and symptoms? Do you match them to an MD based on their location where they're living? Like, how does it work? How does somebody get matched with somebody? And then they're like, hey, where's the starting point if they do diagnostic testing and then get put into one of the brains, bones, and booty protocols?
Yeah. So first off, it's based on where your location. So in the United States, you have to have a doctor who's licensed in your state. So if you're based in Florida, you'll be working with someone online at Parsley who has a medical license in Florida, like I do. And we have doctors at Parsley who are licensed in lots and lots of states. So I'm licensed in 3 states, but we have doctors at Parsley who are licensed in like 20 states. So oftentimes they're seeing patients from lots of different states. So that's number one. That's a legal requirement. I don't make the rules here, people. I think it's actually—
But that's the best way to do it.
I think it's a silly, absolutely silly requirement, but nonetheless, you got to be licensed in the state. Yeah. And then from there, you can select a provider. A lot of patients at Parsley actually just select the provider that's got the first available visit.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we actually built our own fellowship training program for providers in root cause medicine. Every single one of our doctors, nurses, health coaches goes through this fellowship program in root cause medicine so that you can be assured that anyone that you're seeing at Parsley is using our protocols, is deeply trained in this medicine. That cost to us is legit. It's a really, a really meaningful cost, but it's important so that we can ensure that it doesn't matter who you see. They're all going to have the trainings in hormones, in gut health, in immune function, in metabolic health. We have a team-wide GLP-1 training protocol, so all of us can prescribe those medications if they're appropriate, right? So we all do it all. And I want to remind everyone, everyone's like, well, do you have a specialist in GI or a specialist in, cardiology? And I remind everyone, that's not how functional medicine works. Functional medicine is about treating the root cause and understanding how your heart and your gut and your immune system are all connected. So all of our providers can do that. You can also look at their profiles online and say, hey, this one looks really great. I want to work with this person. A lot of our patients, they're coming for Parsley more than Dr. X or Dr. Y, although all of our folks are phenomenal. And then you sign up, you do your intake. When your provider meets you, they've already read everything, but they're going to drill down even further. They're going to try to understand how the story of you ties together. And then they're going to order tests, and you're going to go get tests at your local, it could be LabCorp, it could be Quest, it could be BioReference. We don't care. We'll send you to where you want to go. And we put all of those pieces together. And so when it comes to brains, bones, and booty, that initial diagnostic testing, that root cause medicine assessment is critical because, for example, I see a lot of people online talking about hormone replacement therapy, not testing
for all the other stuff.
Having no idea how they're impacting heart health, how they're impacting blood sugar. They're not even testing the hormones properly. And so, some people need testosterone in their HRT. Other people, their testosterone levels are great. I see some women really maintain their testosterone levels as they age. Godspeed. That's awesome. Congratulations. It's amazing. Some women don't. So we're personalizing our hormone replacement prescription. Same with, the bones and booty pieces. We might be prescribing supplements I really like a supplement from Metagenics called Bone Builder Forte, which is a microcrystalline version of calcium that is really good for building bone. And I'm going to combine that with the right diet of protein and healthy fats to support brain and the right exercise protocol. But I'm going to look at the person in front of me. If they're already weight training at the gym, I'm not going to give them a weight training protocol, right?
Correct, because they're already doing it.
Yeah.
So another thing that I want to kind of quickly touch upon, which is what you guys are doing so well, is traditional medicine almost rewards you if you're hyper specialized in one thing, and that's how you get this specialist, and in traditional medicine that's how you get the awards and all that stuff. But that person has no awareness for everything else that's going around your body. With functional medicine, you look at root cause in everything, but you're a large ecosystem. That should be the way medicine is, not the other way around. So we're rewarding people that are hyper specialized, but those people have no idea about anything else that's going on, which might be causing that imbalance or disease or whatever it may be. Yes. So I think it's the other way around. And with people like what you're doing with Parsley Health and educating people, I'm hoping that that trajectory starts turning and the experts really become the people who are looking at everything.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that, I was on a panel preparing for a panel, a lot of P's there, the other day for a big healthcare conference that I'm speaking at in a couple weeks. And the other folks, gentlemen in this case, on the panel were all the CEOs of these big primary care organizations. And I was talking about functional medicine as its own specialty. In healthcare, we talk about something called centers of excellence. It basically means you could be a center of excellence in cancer care, like Memorial Sloan Kettering is. You could be a center of excellence for spine surgery, right? And Parsley is a center of excellence for functional medicine for helping people reverse chronic disease and optimize health. And we were talking about primary care in general. And primary care is a tough job, right? Because it has to be kind of something for everyone. And that means it can't be really great for everyone sometimes, right? And so for a lot of times, primary care is a little bit of old urgent care, colds, flus, a little bit of preventive services like your vaccines and your screenings, a little bit of chronic disease management. And then oftentimes a lot of just referring you out to specialists because they don't have the time or the training to go deeper.
This episode is brought to you by Timeline Nutrition. Are you ready to unlock the secret to boundless energy and vibrant health, no matter your age? Imagine your body as a bustling city with trillions of tiny power plants, your mitochondria working tirelessly to keep you alive and thriving. But here's the catch. These cellular powerhouses are under constant attack from modern life's invisible enemies, toxins, processed food, and polluted air. As we age, our once effective cellular recycling system starts to slow down, leaving us feeling drained. Enter MitoPure, your cellular fountain of youth. This isn't just another supplement. It's a scientifically backed revolution in a bottle. MitoPure doesn't just mask symptoms, it dives deep into your cells, clearing out the cellular clutter and making room for vibrant, energetic newcomers. Imagine recapturing that youthful spark, the boundless energy, the quick recovery, the mental clarity. That's the MitoPure promise. It's not just about adding years to your life, but life to your years. Don't let another day pass feeling less than your best. Rejuvenate your cells, reclaim your vitality, and age with MitoPure. Visit timeline.com/biohack-it now and use my exclusive code Biohack-it. Your future self will thank you.
And what's crazy is about 30% of adults under 65, so this is our workforce age Americans, have not one, but two or more chronic conditions. Two. And this group, is not getting what they need from primary care. They're falling through the cracks. And so what's happening is they're in this kind of like loop between primary care and specialty care. And the cardiologist does one thing and the GI does another and the rheumatologist does another and the neurologist does another. And none of those guys are talking to each other. Now you're on all these drugs and you go back to the PCP and the PCP becomes just this like weird like record keeper of all of it, but they're not really doing anything either. And then people get really frustrated and they fall through the cracks and they stop seeking care. Like it's a mess. And so where I think functional medicine really fits in is that 30% of people who have two or more chronic conditions really will massively benefit from like a center of excellence in functional health where we can spend more time with you, do the deeper dive, help you leverage nutrition and supplements and sleep, for example, to help really change your disease trajectory and get back to healthy. And then for others, maybe a PCP and a specialist is fine, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
anyone can benefit from functional medicine. I mean, absolutely anyone. And we do have probably about 10 to 15% of Parsley members are biohackers, are healthy folks. They come, they want to, support for doing a keto diet. They want to get all their supplements correct. They want to get all the cool testing that we do and the genetics and the microbiome, and that's awesome. If you're there with us with Parsley, we love you. You're super fun to work with. Sometimes those people come and they actually have a lot more going on under the hood than they thought. But 80% of Parsley members have two or more conditions. Yesterday I saw one of my longtime patients, like super extraordinary woman, like in her career, in her mid-50s, and oh my gosh, we had finally gotten her hormone replacement therapy right. It had taken a couple tries to get her on the right formula. She had really needed compounded bioidentical hormone replacement therapy as opposed to like the more off-the-shelf varietals that you see a lot of people talking about. Those off-the-shelf from the pharmacy versions of HRT, by the way, people, oral progesterone plus the V-Vel dot, that stuff works really well for a lot of folks. But sometimes it doesn't. And those folks often get dismissed or told, well, if it's not working for you, it's your problem. That sucks, right? So at Parsley, we took her off of all of that because it was just giving her horrible side effects, spotting, bloating. Sometimes oral progesterone really bloats people. We got her on a compounded bioidentical HRT cream. She was feeling great. She has a pretty significant mental health history. She had been on some different medications. They hadn't worked for her. We had gotten her back to a medication, really low dose, but it was really working for her and helping her get through some tough things in her life. She was losing weight. She was getting her heart health in check. She was getting ready to go get a calcium score because her brother had just had a heart attack at a young age. But like, we had a plan, man. Like we were,
yeah, you were ready.
we were like,
throw
rocking.
it at us. We're ready
on it. Again, you see this woman walking down the street. You're like, oh my gosh, she's at the height of her career. She's amazing. All these things. But a lot of people have a lot more going on than they sort of recognize. Mm-hmm. This is someone who wouldn't ever, I think, identify as like, I'm sick.
Correct.
And I think there's a lot of us out there, if you're listening, you might not think of yourself as, quote, a sick person, and you're not. But you do have ongoing chronic conditions that would massively benefit from a functional medicine approach.
And that's the beauty of this space,
Yes.
right? It gives you answers beyond what you're looking for. A lot of times people, if you're also listening, is you go to a traditional doctor and they check your ranges, your lab, and they're like, but you're healthy. But they're looking at people who are generally much more unhealthy. Functional medicine has tighter ranges. They're smaller, and they're looking at people who are optimized. Yeah. So you're benchmarked against the healthiest of the healthiest. Therefore, you can see where your little levers can be pulled and you can be a little bit adjusted.
Exactly.
It's like a chiropractor, almost like you're just like tweaking things into place.
Yeah,
you know?
Sometimes we're tweaking, sometimes we're at the body shop doing an overhaul, and either way, we got you.
I was going to ask you, we talked a little bit about menopause, and I read this, study recently that women are going into menopause sooner and sooner and sooner earlier than ever before in history. And there's a huge tie into metabolic dysfunction and toxin loads in our body.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can tie poor metabolic health, and for everyone who's like, well, what really is metabolic health? It's really about blood sugar and how much sugar you're eating and your body's ability to manage that amount of blood sugar, right? Diabetes is the end stage of poor metabolic health. And 2/3 of Americans today, 2 of 3 of us adults, are in woefully poor metabolic health. Probably more than that, because we're sitting all day, we're eating 75% of our diet is ultra refined, high sugar processed foods that we were not meant to eat. And that is causing our bodies to just go in complete overload and not be able to manage our blood sugar. And I always like to do a little bit of biology 101 because I think this is very abstract for people sometimes. Think of all your red blood cells that carry oxygen around your body as like little corn flakes. And when your body has too much sugar floating around in the bloodstream because you're eating too much sugar and because the body is losing its ability to keep that sugar away and out of the blood and inside your cells, those little corn flakes get coated in frosting and they become frosted flakes. And when they get frosted, even a little bit, they lose their flexibility, they get weird shapes, they get crunchy, and they stop being able to bring oxygen to your fingers and your toes and your eyeballs and your heart and your ovaries and your testicles and all of the parts of your body. And even a little bit at a time, diabetes is when that process has gone fully far gone. And you're actually starting to lose feeling in your feet and your hands and you're losing vision, right? Because people end up with amputations because they have lost oxygenation to their extremities essentially. But that process starts way before. And that is why, in the Brains, Bones, and Booty protocol, we're really focused on that booty piece, which is that metabolic health. Because when your blood sugar is out of whack, your hormones are out of whack too. Your blood sugar is not happening in a silo and your hormones are over here. They are all talking to each other. And so we are starting to get our thyroid out of whack, our adrenals out of whack, and our sex hormones out of whack with poor metabolic health very early. And for younger women, for example, that is PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, blood sugar gets high. Then insulin goes up to control the blood sugar. Insulin's a hormone. When insulin goes up, guess what else goes up? Testosterone. We get our greasy hair, our acne, our facial hair growth that's associated with PCOS. Okay, testosterone goes up. Guess what testosterone gets turned into in the body? Estrogen. And it gets converted into estrogen. And the more stressed you are, the faster that enzyme works and the faster and more estrogen. Now we get weight gain. We get irregular periods. And we get PCOS, and now we have a trouble getting pregnant, right? And that all started with the blood sugar all the way back at the beginning. The same we're finding is true in menopause. And one thing I always remind folks when it comes to menopause is that it's not just your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. We also got to remember our other hormones, which are key players in this little play that's going on, which is your thyroid hormones and your adrenal hormones. After your ovaries stop making your sex hormones, and you're usually around 51, but it can be younger, can be older, your adrenals can still make your testosterone and are still making certain hormones. And a lot of us are suffering from effectively adrenal burnout, right? Yep. So adrenal fatigue. And my patient yesterday, the one where we finally got our HRT dialed, on all her tests, her morning cortisol levels are just tanked, and she has phase 3 adrenal fatigue. She's been living this high-powered life and never resting for so long. we're using adaptogenic herbs and other things to try to support that. But I've told her, I'm like, listen, at some point you have to reboot your adrenals. And part of why you feel so exhausted all the time, and part of why you're having trouble with your metabolism, it's not just your sex hormones, right? Those we're actually now addressing with HRT. It's your adrenal hormones, which have gone into complete red zone because of how you've been living for the past 20 years. And that's a really core component of the way we think about these conditions.
I'm that person. You're describing somebody, and I'm lucky. I'm 41. I'm going to be 42 next year, so I'm still young enough to have. But the high pressure life that I've been living, building my businesses and being on the go, and things that fuel me, have shot my adrenals out. And now I'm getting to a phase in my life that I'm really trying to work on my adrenal health, because I'm like, this is not going to help me.
It doesn't help, and I was part of my sort of message in Brains, Bones, and Booty is that your hormones really are in your hands, and they start with the adrenals. In functional medicine, we actually learned that in the kingdom of hormones, adrenals are king. And I always like to say, well, it's a matriarchal society, so adrenals are queen, and queen's on top. And so the adrenals are actually are really the drivers of your downstream hormones. And all of these hormones are made from cholesterol, which is where the sort of fat-free diet thing that happened for a while, and some people are still on, was a huge mistake. You need healthy fats.
Correct.
I have a tablespoon of super high-quality olive oil every single day, straight. I drink it.
Yeah.
Right? And this is for my brain. This is for my hormones. This is for my skin. This is so critical. So those healthy fats get used by the adrenals, which are making our hormones and also neurotransmitters. And for a lot of folks, they're living in fight or flight. They're going and going and going. They're always running from that proverbial lion. It's not that their adrenals have a disease. There are diseases of the adrenals. But this is where we have a functional medicine perspective. Conventional medicine will say you don't have diseases called Addison's and Cushing's disease, two different types of diseases of the adrenals. There's nothing wrong with your adrenals. And I will say, well, your adrenals don't have a disease like Addison's or Cushing's, but they're in a state of dysfunction.
Correct.
Your brain has been yelling at them to produce for so long they stopped listening, which is, by the way, the same thing that happens in diabetes. Your pancreas is trying to produce insulin because you're eating so much sugar for so long, it just sort of craps out and can't do it anymore. Our adrenals are kind of the same way. And so on testing, you'll see these people who have completely disrupted cortisol balance. You should have high cortisol in the morning, and it should come down over the course of the day. And they'll have what I call the flat line, which is just it's low throughout the day. And so they're exhausted when they wake up no matter what. And all of that adrenal dysfunction is then impacting our thyroid and our sex hormones. And so we have to sometimes go back upstream and say, you know what, your sex hormones are okay, but hormonally you're actually out of balance over here.
And Robin, let's talk about you for a second. How do you do it all? You're the CEO of a growing company that's really leading the charge when it comes to functional medicine being accessible to the masses. You have 3 beautiful kids. You're a wife. You have incredible friends, because I see you kind of posting about it, and you still have community. How do you manage it all? Like, how?
I literally live all the things that I teach my patients. So the Brains, Bones, and Booty protocol, right, was inspired by this 40-year-old woman who'd had her kid and said, what do I do? Just wait for menopause? But let's be honest, that was also for me. Yeah. And I had to say, all right, what I was doing in my 20s and 30s has to be different now. I've turned 43 this summer, and I'm on the other side of the baby journey, and so grateful for where I landed. By the way, everyone thought I would be like 42 and have 1 kid. I'm still like shocked and amazed every day that I had 3 kids by 40.
And how old are they all, by the way?
One is 7.5, 4.5, and my littlest just turned 3. My baby just turned 3.
But they're 3 under 10. That's a big,
it's
while
wild.
Building a company this size.
Yeah. And then I have a 4th baby, which is Parsley Health, which I had right around the time that I had my first human baby. So it's wild and crazy times in my house. Just like getting out the door every day is like a battle.
You just moved.
And I just moved. Thank goodness. I want everyone to know I had 3 kids in one room for the past 7 years in an apartment in Brooklyn.
One area of science that is extremely exciting is supplements, but is also an area that creates a lot of confusion. Today, I want to talk about a supplement that's been a game changer for me. Seeds DSO1 Daily Synbiotic. This little powerhouse is packed with 24 clinically and scientifically studied strains. And get this, it's engineered with something called ViaCap, which helps it survive the treacherous journey through your digestive system. This means it actually reaches your gut alive and ready to work its magic. Since I started taking DSO1, I've noticed a lightness in my stomach that I hadn't felt in years. It's like my gut and I are finally on the same page. And bonus, my skin's been looking clearer and more vibrant too. What I love about Seed is their commitment to science. They're not just throwing together some random bacteria and calling it a day. They've got numerous clinical trials published in top scientific journals. So really you have access to some of the best minds giving you the top science. And let's talk convenience. I just pop my DSO1 capsule in the morning and I'm good to go. Now I know what you're thinking, another supplement, but trust me, this isn't just another pill. It's a scientifically validated way to support your digestive health, reinforce the gut barrier integrity, and promote a healthy immune system through the gut immune axis. Ready to give your gut the love it deserves? Go to seed.com/biohack-it and use code 25BiohackIt for 25% off your first month of DSO1. That's 25% off at seed.com/biohackit, code 25BiohackIt.
And now my oldest kid has his own room and my younger two share. But I moved into like a slightly larger spot in
your
Brooklyn,
dream home.
in my dream home that I manifested over many years. It took me a few years. There was always this one house I thought was so cute. And I was like, maybe we could rent that someday. We're renting this house. I can't believe it. But my oldest kid finally has his own room. It's wild. We actually have a little bit of like, it's like you live in Florida, so it's totally different for you. But in New York City, I've got like a little backyard. It's like a concrete backyard, but like it has some plants in it. We're all like so excited.
You're like, wow, there's some greenery here.
Outdoor space, greenery. Someone the other day was like, is that trees behind you? I was on a Zoom call and I was like, oh, no, it's just ivy on the side of the building behind me, but it looks really good.
And you have dogs.
And we have 2 dogs, yes. So we have 5 life forms, and then 7, including my husband and I. And so the only way I honestly survive, literally, 1, I eat the Parsley Health approved way, which is, we call it plant-based paleo, which means you're eating low sugar, really eliminating refined carbs and sugar wherever you can. Doesn't mean I never have a piece of gluten-free bread, people. I absolutely do, and I'll enjoy that. But I'm really not eating processed foods other than that glorious piece of GF bread. I'm eating meats and vegetables and nuts and seeds and whole grains, and we're cooking. We cook. So this morning I made hot lunches for all 3 kids. I made a hot breakfast for all 3 kids.
Wow.
Fed the dogs. Dog walker came, right? It does take a village, let's be honest. But we're cooking our food. We really are not doing prepared and packaged foods. We do takeout maybe once a week. I'm gluten-free. I'm dairy-free. Really low on the packaged and processed foods. I'll have butter. I'll have some gluten once a month if I'm at somewhere really special and it's like what I call worth it gluten, right? But it's not part of my diet. I actually get eczema and acne when I eat gluten and dairy. Wow. So for me, vanity is a great motivator. Yeah. And I don't eat
works for you. What works for you?
It works for me, right? I have those food allergies. I wish I'd known that before I got married because I had a slice of pizza at late night the night before my actual wedding, and I woke up with a huge zit the morning of, and it was in the era where I didn't know, hadn't trained in functional medicine yet, didn't know that I was allergic to these foods. God help me.
This is a stress zit.
Yeah, it's a stress zit. No, it was straight up. I had a slice of pizza at midnight before I got married the next day. Wasn't a good idea. Not the pizza part, just the gluten and dairy part. And so I eat in a way that's anti-inflammatory, that helps me stay calm. I meditate for 15 minutes every morning, and I get my espresso. Listen, I got to have my espresso or I can't make it into the day. The kids they know. They're just like,
don't talk to mom before
Don't
that.
bother her. She hasn't had her coffee yet. I have my espresso, but then I sit down with that and I breathe and I meditate and I move my energy and I move energy from the universe through my body and I get clarity and calm so that I can face with some modicum of sanity the rest of the day and how much it's going to take for me. I sleep. I go to bed by 10:30 every night to avoid that late night cortisol spike. I try not to look at screens before bed. I have a really good, simple supplement stack, but I'm religious about it. And I take all my supplements at night. People always ask me, what time of day should I take my supplements? My honest answer for most people is the time of day when you will actually take your supplements.
Yeah, because it's about consistency.
And very few people, it's like they ever take them. So I take my methylated B vitamins at night. I find they help me sleep. They don't keep me up.
Wow. Okay.
Some people don't find that. I'm good with them. I take my magnesium glycinate. I take my probiotic. I take my vitamin D drops. Why? Because they're sitting on my bathroom counter next to my toothbrush. Yeah. And that is when I'm getting them in.
Right.
And I don't always take omega-3s because I am on this like olive oil kick, but I will also take some fish oil. Right. And so that's kind of my stack right now. It's really simple. And then I take self-care seriously. Like I don't do these things a lot because they're expensive, but I'll get a massage. I'll go to my acupuncturist. I'll see my therapist. Very occasionally plant medicine is part of my life. And these things are ways for me to stay grounded so that I am able to be a good mom, be a good partner, and show up for my business.
I think what you said right now is also getting that quiet for Robin so that Robin can process her emotions, get everything she needs to do, because you have to show up for so many people in your life. You have to show up for yourself. But if you can't show up for you, who are you going to show up for?
Right. Exactly. What do you do?
I do the meditations in the morning for sure. Okay. I really, really try to get that in. We eat super clean. I also spend a lot of time with my husband. So we both have very intense schedules. We prioritize each other on the weekends, and we have the 4 dogs. And I felt that when we were overcommitting to social plans, I would feel like even more exhausted and dysregulated, because I'm running around. So I have realized that having this incredible relationship with my partner and having that kind of bounce back and feedback, and we have each other, helps me show up on a Monday to work because I feel that and we cook a lot together, by the way. He's a phenomenal cook. I act like I can't cook anymore, which I'm just being lazy. He's
I'm
just so much better than I am.
By the way, my husband is the cook in the family. I'm so lucky.
And and it's like he works insane hours, but he loves being in the kitchen. He actually tells him, he's like, you give me anxiety, please leave the kitchen. So I think that bonding moment of preparing food together and having a home together, and we have 4 dogs that we're obsessed with, is really like helps me show up on a Monday for my team, for my friends, for myself, and motivates me. Awesome. And I think he lets me, the most important thing, I think, allowing me to be me. Not putting me in a box of any sort and just letting my creativity flow and just be myself and come up with crazy ideas. And he's like, you go do that, So I think that really helps me. And I think having a clean diet, knowing what I'm putting in my body, being conscious about that, and the quality of my other relationships. I'm very mindful of who I keep around me. From a social perspective, from a company perspective, whether it's the hires we make or the friends that I have, I'm mindful about who I'm sharing my energy with.
That one is so important because there's great research showing that not only is your sort of success in life very determined by sort of the 5 people you keep around you the most, but also your health.
Yeah.
And the people you're around the most you'll drift with them from health. So if you hang out with a bunch of people that eat a certain way, drink a certain way, have a certain relationships here, but their bodies, well, that's your social hangs, right?
Correct.
So you're going to do that too. And it's not about rejecting people you love, but it is about finding, if health is important to you, some other people maybe in addition to those old 5, a new 5 who you can be around that share that set of values and that can uplift you when it comes to your health.
I think that's super important. And right now we're personally and I've been talking about it on my social and stuff, I'm on a fertility journey. So, I came to the stage a little bit late. So we really want to have 2 to 3 kids. And so I'm starting and I'm taking it as it comes, I'm not letting that define me. We're working through it actively and stuff. And I think that goes down to me having clarity in my mind about I'm going to get to my destination. Doesn't matter how I get there, but I'm going to get there. And that comes from me creating space in my life.
Yeah.
For me to have my own internal thoughts.
Yes, for sure. And I think that was a big realization for me earlier, like in the spring. I realized that I had allowed sort of like so much noise of other people's wants, desires, opinions about my company, about all sorts of things, to almost like invade. And they had become this like block voice of noise. And when I had this realization around this, I was able to sort of separate that. And a lot of my morning 15 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, people. Sometimes it's literally, I set a timer on my phone for 3 minutes just to breathe, because that morning was a little cray and the kids were a mess and
the dogs are barking.
Nobody wanted to get dressed and like, you know, or I woke up late and just like, you know, screw it. But I'm going to do 3 minutes at minimum. Yeah. I try to do 15. But a lot of that is around centering ourselves. One of my favorite yoga teachers always says, put yourself in the middle of yourself. And I love that. So whether you're in your yoga practice or you're moving or you're just walking or at work, it's like, whoa, sometimes we're way out here. And that 15 minutes is putting myself in the middle of myself and asking, like, what do I really want? Right. And that can allow you, I think, when it comes to health especially, to tap in. And again, for women, it's not just about, you know, who are you going to, when your tombstone says live to 120, like who are you proving it to, right? That's great. But what was the quality of your life along those years? And I think for women, being able to ground within ourselves and say, what do I really want, is the way that we connect to being motivated around our health. I heard so much when I was in medical training. People don't care about their health. That's what I was taught in med school. Yeah. And I was always like, yeah, that doesn't really track to me. I think they do care a lot about their health. I think they're not that interested in our medical system.
Bingo!
because it doesn't work very well, and it's very frustrating, and it's really hard to navigate, and then we're given a bunch of pills and not told why we're taking them. And then the doctors say, why are you not taking your pills? And you're like, well, why would I don't even know what these pills are for. Why am I taking them? There's 17 of them. How are we going to take all these pills? Right? So I think that there's a deep interest in health. In fact, McKinsey's a big consulting firm. They came out this year with a report that showed wellness in the United States is now a $480 billion industry, growing 5 to 10% year over year, which is massive, people. Yeah. And that 82% of Americans now, as of 2024, say wellness is a top priority. And so people, I believe, Americans want to be well. Of all stripes, of all colors, of all political inclinations. Everyone wants to be well. And for all of us, that moment to sort of be with yourself is how you connect to like, hey, am I well? And if I'm not well, what am I going to do about it?
I think health is a bipartisan issue.
Yes.
Every single person, doesn't matter your race, your background, you know, your ethnicity, how old you are, it is everyone's issue. We all want to be healthy, and we should prioritize being healthy.
Right. Well, I mean, our chronic disease epidemic is like Hurricane Milton that just went through,
yes.
Right? Like, it spares no one.
Correct.
It doesn't care which party you're in or how old you are. It is tearing through us, and it's ripping us apart, and it's costing us trillions of dollars. And everyone deserves the opportunity to be well. And to do that, we have to reform our healthcare system. We have to bring functional medicine into the forefront and have it be a core part of our healthcare system. And we also have to reform our food system, which I know is a topic for another day. But those two things really go together. Mm-hmm. And I'm over here in my little corner of the fight. You know, my
big corner, though.
My Daria versus Goliath moment. You know, trying to show our healthcare system that functional medicine isn't expensive private practices and a boatload of supplements and tests. Functional medicine is about treating the root cause so that we can get this wave of chronic disease to recede.
Robin, I'm so excited I finally met you in person, and just how you educate and you speak about things. You're so approachable and you make it easy for people. And I think you're really taking that spirit into building Parsley. It's approachable medicine. Everybody can obtain it and be part of the conversation about healing their bodies. And so I'm so grateful for the work you're doing. And thank you for taking out the time to come out this morning and talk to me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing to finally meet you in person.
You too.
One of my favorite Instagram follows when
I'm
not scrolling at night, but during the day.
And you know, it's beautiful because I've been able to use social media to get access to people like you and build a relationship. And then seeing you in person, I was like, I know this person,
Which is so impressive about you. Like, you just reached out to me on social media and we like formed this relationship and we've had some really interesting conversations.
We have, right? We really got vulnerable with each other and spoken about real things. But that's where community happens, right?
Yes.
That's like how you meet people and really get to the root cause of what makes you you.
Yes.
And is there space? Everybody should be able to have a space to convey themselves and communicate and talk about real issues. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.